Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is Student X, and in today's lesson, we'll be building a Python program that validates a password based on specific rules. So our problem statement says, write a Python program that validates a password based on defined security requirements. Your program should accept a password as a user input and check that the password is at least 8 characters long, has at least one uppercase letter, has at least one lowercase letter, contains at least one digit, contains at least one special character from this defined set, and it says clearly indicate whether the password is valid or invalid. If invalid, specify which rules failed, right? So of course, good practice is to write your name, right? In this case, I'm going to say Student X, and then of course the day's date, which in this case is February 2026. So then after that, I'm going to create a special storage location so that I can define the set, you see. So in this case, I'm going to say special, right? Oops. I'm going to say special is equal to this set, which contains our @ right? And then contains our hashtag, and then contains our $, and then contains our percentage, and then also contains our asterisk, and finally contains our and sign, you see. So this is how we define the sets, right? Or how we define these special characters. So any character, right, that is inside the special is considered to be a special character for our specific example, you see. And it's very important to use your apostrophes so that the program can input it or can read it as a string, you see. And then after that, I'm going to initiate a continuous loop, right? So I'm going to initiate a continuous loop, and in this case I'm going to say while true, right, we're going to have our user input, you see. User input, and in this case I'm going to say this is equal to the input of, and I'm going to use enter your password, right? And the user is going to enter their password as a string, you see. That's what the input function allows us to do. This is what's going to be displayed on the screen, and the user will have to input, you see, their password. So the first gate, or the first criteria, will be if the length of the password is at least 8 characters long. So I'm going to use nested if statement. So in this case, I'm going to use, so if len of the user input, len being the length of the user input, is strictly less than 8, right, then we're going to print saying invalid, right, the password is invalid, and that the password needs to be at least 8 characters long. And not just that, I'm also going to say try again, you see. So now the user knows where exactly they went wrong, you see. In this case it was too short. And then I'm going to put in the command continue so that it just restarts the loop. And then I'm going to add in another if statement. This time I'm going to use elif, right? So notice elif is the same as saying else and then if, right? So if this first statement doesn't work out, we come here. But instead of saying elif fully, we can just use elif, you see. Instead of using else and if fully, we can just say elif. And in this case, I'm going to say elif not any, or rather let me start off by saying any character dot is upper. So this is upper checks if a specific character is uppercase, and then this initiates a loop for character in user input, right? So what this line does is that it simply says for each character that you loop over inside the user password, we're going to check if the character is uppercase, right? And the any function, what it does is that if you may have a string of answers of, let's say, false, 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 true, false, 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 and you put your command any it's going to return an answer of true. As long as there's at least one true within the set, it's going to return true. But if all of them are false, it's going to return false, you see. So in this case, as long as we have at least one character that is uppercase, our any function is going to return true, you see. And that's what we want. But now I'm going to put in a not to negate it. So now the not function just simply negates everything, which allows us to say, okay, fine. If we don't actually have any letter that is uppercase, then we're going to print. And say invalid again, right? And this time we're going to say password needs to have at least one uppercase letter, you see. Right? Let me spell that properly. Letter. And then of course try again, you see. That's how we do it. And then of course you do the same for everything else with, don't forget your continue command so it can restart the loop, and then you do the same for everything else. So in this case I'm just going to copy my lines instead of having to retype it over and over again. So this time this next line is going to be if it's lowercase, you see. So is dot lower, right? And same thing, same procedure. Loop over each character inside the password, returns any, and then negates it, and then we say print invalid, password needs to have at least one lowercase letter, you see. Try again, and then do the same thing of just copy and paste, but this time we're going to say if the character is a digit, you see, and this time we're going to say print invalid, password needs to have at least one digit. Try again, you see. So that's the beauty of having this nested tree. And then we're going to copy and paste again, and this time we're going to say, instead of checking if it's a uppercase, lowercase, or digit, we're going to say for each character, so character in special, character that we have in the special storage location, we're going to say for character in user input. So it's going to compare each character in the password, and it's going to check if that character, if a particular character is also found in this storage location, you see. So if it is, that's good, our password is valid. But if it's not, the statement is going to be printed out. Invalid, password needs to have at least one special character, you see. So I'm going to say one special character in this case, right? And then of course continue. And then finally, if our password checks all the boxes, then surely it must mean that it is valid. So in this case, with our final statement, we're going to use else. Notice it's not an aleph, it's our else, denoting that it's the final step, right? Given that all the other boxes are checked, we're going to say print valid password. And that is our Python code. Let's try and run it. So now that we're here, we're going to enter our password, right? So this is where we see the coding taking place in action. So to enter my password, I'm going to start off by entering tutor, for an example, right? That's my name, or that's my password. I'm going to say tutor. But notice how it says like the password needs to be at least 8 characters long. Okay, fine. So let me enter again. I'm going to say tutor next as my password. But look here, it says it needs to have at least one uppercase character or one uppercase letter. Okay, fine. Let me do this. Tutor next. You see? Notice how it also says it needs to have at least one lowercase character. Fine. Let me try tutor, right? Tutor with a capital T and a capital N. Oh, but now it says it needs to have at least one digit, you see. Okay, let's do that again. I'm going to say tutor next 100. Notice how it also says at least one special character is needed. Okay, so I'm going to say tutor next 100 with a $sign. And let's see what it gives us. It says valid password, which is exactly what we want and what we need, you see. And that's it for today's Python problem. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with those hungry for Python challenges. And special shout out to IJ Beats for their Christian instrumental background music. And of course, guys, please take note that some of these codes may not necessarily be efficient or may be too long, intentionally so. It's up to you to give me advice. It's up to you to give me a better solution. Please leave your answers in the comment section or email me at tutornext.success@gmail.com. And I'll see you in the next video with me, Tutor Next. Simplifying success, one question at a time.